Hi there, this is Ryan from Vicesoftware, and I wanted to take a few minutes to show you some of the features of our new React Redux boilerplate, which takes advantage of the hooks API in React and Redux, and also takes advantage of the Redux toolkit. All of these things add a lot of productivity for developers as they reduce boilerplate, and we wanted to have a great starting point for developers when they start their projects to have all the things they might need. So let's go ahead and take a look at the app that we've created. When you install the app, this is what you get out of the box currently. We're going to have a few routes up here that allow us to demonstrate the main features of the boilerplate from the user's point of view. So every app is going to need the ability for users to sign in, and that we're going to need to be able to protect routes based on whether they're authenticated, meaning they're signed in, or authorized, meaning that they have certain permissions. So if a user comes in without signing in and clicks authenticated, the boilerplate will automatically redirect you to the sign-in page where that user can fill in their credentials. So Heather at Vicesoftware, for example, and their password, submit. This doesn't actually send the request anywheres. The idea is that you could put whatever IDP calls you want in there to validate the user. This is more about having a front-end flow for being able to manage users signing in, redirecting them to the page that they were previously on, which is what happened there. We're back on the authenticated page now. And if we come over here and take a look at the Redux Dev Tools, you'll see that this is going to actually load the user's profile. So when the sign-in is fulfilled, you get the user context is now updated to include the username, which is the email, and permissions. And so permissions for Heather is empty. And if we go to the authorized role, you'll see that it says you do not have the required permissions for this page. That's because this page requires a permission called can do anything. So if we actually log out as Heather and we come back in as Ryan at Vicesoftware, once we sign in, if we look at the latest state for user context, we'll see that now we have Ryan and that he can do anything. So if we come over to authorize now, we'll see that he's able to access that. He can go to the authenticated page or anywhere on the site he wants at this point. So those are the authentication and authorization features you get out the box. Another thing you're going to need to do on any and every project is load users. I'm sorry, not load users, just make calls to the API to get data. In this case, we're demonstrating that with users. So you see here I loaded users, and all of the Redux idiomatic patterns you should be following, we're getting for free here. This is actually coming to us via Redux Toolkit. Our previous boilerplate, we used to do this pattern. Basically, the idea is that you fire an action when the request is pending, and then you fire another action when the request is fulfilled. And the point there is to be able to know at what point in a process something failed, to get more information. You don't want to have everything fail and you don't know if the request was sent, things like that. So it's the idiomatic way of doing Redux, and there's usually a lot of boilerplate or infrastructure code involved, and in this case we're taking care of those concerns for you. We're also taking care of your busy spinner for you. We increment and decrement that accordingly, as you saw the spinner showed and hid. And then we're also taking care of notification messages. You may or may not want to show one, but it's very easy to do so, and that will pop up for you, and it's all driven through Redux, so you can use the dev tools to see what's going on. So another common pattern that you'll probably want to use when you're using a React Redux application is to take advantage of caching using the Redux store as your cache. The data is in the store after it comes from the server, so you may as well not go get it again if you've already got it in some cases. And so in the user case here, we already just got the list, so let's go ahead and turn on caching and see how that works with our users. So now we're going to go to the server to get it this time because our cache doesn't know that we want to cache the data yet. And so now if we look over here, we'll see that the HTTP cache added a request, and the request that it wanted to add was to this users for Git. These are actually users coming back from GitHub, if you're curious. And so now that that's in the cache, if we come over, let's open up the network tab. We can see we have 2 calls to users. If we come over to settings and back to users, everything just comes right back up because we didn't take time to go to the server and the developer didn't have to think about any of that. He just had to specify whether or not he wanted to use the caching. And we'll take a look at that in future modules. And over here, you'll see that we are writing out an action that lets you know that the cache was hit, and you can see what the URL was for the cache hit. So another feature that we find that we use quite a bit is background loading when you make asynchronous calls. So we can set no busy spinner to true, and when we come to users, now we don't see a busy spinner, but you can see our request went out here, and when that came back, we got all our data. So the reason you use this pattern usually, though, is not for the main content you're going to show on the page. It's usually there will be a pop out to the side or a panel that has some data you want to prefetch in case someone clicks it. There's an edge case that you have to account for when that happens, where the user comes in, you start loading it in the background, and then they pop out the side panel, and you want to show a busy spinner now, but you don't want to make an additional request to the API because you've already started fetching that data. So as you could probably guess, we've taken care of that use case for you. If we come over here, we can now say we want to reload with a busy spinner, and as you saw there very quickly, the busy spinner popped up, and if we look at the network tab, let's do that one more time. I have one request to users here. Let me go ahead and clear that out real quick. We'll go back to settings. I'll do it quicker this time. So we go no busy spinner, over to users, we see 1 request, load again, there's our busy spinner, and we still only had 1 request. So that's a handy feature. We definitely use it on every project. This is at a high level the features that are available from a user's perspective that you get out the box with the boilerplate. In future videos, we'll look at a lot of the architectural benefits that enable high dev velocity for your team, and then also reduce boilerplate quite a bit. Thanks for joining in, and we'll talk to you soon.